Hey, good evening. I just caught me there. Good evening, everyone. Another beautiful day. Good to be here. And just say a quick hello to you all, those who are just joining live, those of you who will be joining during the week. Really good for you to take some time out to, take some time to pause. We're looking at pausing again, part two. We looked at part one last week, and I'm just waiting for my sound engineer to give me the nod. I think I don't say, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't say that too much now. I'm just waiting for my sound engineer to give me a nod that everything is there. Okay. But anyway, hope you've had a good week thus far. And it might be good if you are watching, if you can get pen and paper to write things down. Thank you, sound engineer, and thank you, Sonia, and anyone else who is watching. For me, we're good to go. It's 7 o'clock, and let's make a start. This whole thing about pausing. Really important. So I just want to do a very short recap, and then we'll be looking at another aspect of pausing this evening. So pause. In fact, sometimes it's so simple and we take it for granted. We don't think it's important, but actually it really is important. Absolutely important, as we'll share this evening from the world of neuroscience. So pause means a temporary stop. Wait a moment to catch one's breath. Also, pausing helps us to remain stable and constant during difficult times. And we had a definition last week of pause. Pause is an opening. It acts as a portal to other options and choices. And I was saying more about that as we kind of crack on. So if you just kind of scrolling, please stay. This has been really important. If you're on a treadmill, you can't seem to get off. You're in a tense situation. Maybe some of the things here this evening will really help you just to take a breath, step back, think, and then go again with a better option. So we looked at last week we looked at psychology and pausing, and tonight we're going to look at neuroscience. So I just want to give a definition of neuroscience. It's really kind of complex, to be honest, but it's really interesting how we are understanding how the brain works. Good evening, Claire, and anyone else who's just joined in a few minutes after 7, who never comments, and that's fine, as long as you're getting something from it, as long as you feel inspired, encouraged, you can use it somewhere else, you're sharing it with a friend or family member, please do. Brilliant. Excellent. So neuroscience, I'll just read it. It's a study of the nervous system from structure to function, from development to degeneration, in health and disease. It's incredibly complex, but our brains define who we are and what we do. So good evening to you, Jenny, and young Dave, if he's knocking around somewhere. It's really important, this whole thing about pausing and what neuroscience is amazing. I do know a couple of neuroscience scientists, and if you want to watch anybody who's really good at neuroscience on YouTube, is Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman is really, really good. Kind of goes quite deep, but the great thing, of course, you can stop it, rewind it, watch it again, and so forth, and take some notes. So neuroscience is really interested in how the brain works, the nervous system, from structure to function, from development to disease, all that type of thing. It really wants to understand the brain. So all the stuff that I'm doing now, I tend to not just look at behavior, but it's really important to know what's happening in the brain in terms of how it works in the body and so forth. Really important. So I just want to say a little bit from the world of neuroscience. Listen, all I'm offering today is basic stuff. If you're watching for the first time, this is no substitute for going to the doctors or seeing a counselor or psychologist or psychotherapist if it is needed. So these are just hints and tips, some insights to kind of help you on your way, but really go and get that long-term treatment that's necessary for you to kind of function well. So pausing activates what some call, very complex part of the brain's braking system. Now that's layman's language, I can understand that. The brain's braking system located in the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. Now that's a mouthful, isn't it? So we call it the brain's braking system. It's the cornerstone of what they call self-regulation. It's really important that when things happen, we now have to stop, we now have to regulate ourselves. That's not just actions, but it's what happens in the brain. And that is vital to our This kind of self-regulation is really important for our thinking. It's this part of the brain is activated when there's movement, there's thought or emotion. It's put into action, and then it needs to be modified. So something's got going. We're about to do something. We're about to say something. We're thinking something, and then we realize it needs to be modified. That part of the brain kicks in. It causes us to pause, and then we reflect, and then we make usually a better consideration, better decision. We do something differently, and I'll say a little bit more about that. Part of this is from an article called "What Happens in the Brain When We Pause" by Tamara Russell. So it's really important. So we set off. We're going to do something. We're going to say something. We realize that needs to be modified. It's part of the brain that does that, kicks in. We don't even think about it. It kicks in, and then we pause, and then we kind of modify what we're about to do. Incredible stuff that's happening. However, this is the thing. Our present world is operating at a frenetic pace, and that part of the brain we need to train it to be fit and alert. Proper functioning of this part of the brain is essential to, now listen to this, proper functioning of the brain, this part of the brain is essential to avert mental ill health. So we're not designed to keep going. One of the things I say to people, even in factories where there's machines and robots and so forth, at some point in the day or some point in the week, there's some downtime where the machine is given rest, it's maintained, it's oiled. If parts are wearing out before it breaks down, new part put in. But somehow we feel as human beings we can just keep going, and we can't. We weren't designed, whatever word you want to use, we weren't made to keep going. So this whole thing around pausing is really important. I remember a few years ago they were talking about Sheffield being a 24-hour city. Madness. That's absolute madness. We're not designed to be functioning 24 hours a day. Now, of course, it doesn't mean to say that people will be up for 24 hours a day, but having something that's so constant is not good. I called a friend of mine in Birmingham. He was very instrumental in developing a building, a community centre. And one of the things he said to me, believe it or not, he said the building is used, but then he said to me, the building gets stressed, and there must be a time that the building rests. Now you just think a building is just bricks and mortar, doors and glass, but he said if the building is used too much, the building gets stressed, and there needs to be a time in the week where there's nothing happening in the room. Can you believe that? Even inanimate objects need a rest. Incredible what he was saying. So in terms of this whole thing around this the kind of world in which we're living in, that actually this part of the brain really important that we train it, we keep it fit, so it averts from mental ill health and other forms of dysfunction. That's really important. So this whole thing about moving slowly and mindfully really trains our brains, because remember I said some time ago that what we're trying to do, we're trying to form new habits to develop new neural pathways so our bodies can act differently. One of the things, I've just got a new swim coach, and one of the things that she's been saying to me, Delroy, slow down. You're in the water is 800 times more resistant than air. So slow down and lengthen out your strokes, so you're doing less strokes and you're not using up as much energy. So even in the water, it's about slowing down, giving the body the opportunity to rest, recover, even whilst swimming. So slowing down, going slow is much harder than speeding up. I said already that our modern society works against the brain's braking system. And so mindfully slowing down is essential for us. So we have to do it intentionally. Now I've never done this before, but I know people have done it. Tai Chi, this whole thing about slow movement. Some people absolutely swear by it, how much it's calmed them down. And I think if you looked at any research that's done on Tai Chi, the people who do it, they live to grand old ages. I suspect it does a lot to blood pressure, immune system, reduces levels of anxiety. and I'm convinced it'll have some effect on the blood, and I would suspect some positive effect on the cells of our bodies as well. So this whole thing about slowing down is incredibly important. So number one, going slow is much harder than speeding up, but really essential. Number two is slowing down to see more or to savor the moment. That's really important. Savoring, I guess, suggests the word tasting. The way that fast food is made, is done these days. Well, not that I do often, very rarely actually. You buy a quarter pounder with cheese with bacon, and fast food outlets are not there for you to sit there the whole day snacking on a burger. So you've got this massive burger where you've got to dislocate your jaw to get your teeth around it, and you kind of chew it in 2 or 3 gulps and it's down. You're not savoring the food. So this whole thing around savoring, to enjoy somebody's company if you're with them. One of the things I really dislike, if I'm meeting somebody for coffee, and sometimes, you know, I've actually not met somebody to say, look, if I meet you, I'm going to be rushing and I don't want to rush. So can we rearrange for another time? You sit with them, you talk, you have proper conversation, really important. Here we go. Yeah, me and my son spent the day at Leeds Dock in the sunshine doing nothing whilst he had a day of work. And we both, yeah, absolutely. The whole thing around, some people say, well, oh, you know, you've been lazy. Or no, it's pausing. And sometimes it's just, you know, I'm talking about savoring, slowing down to savor the life. One of the things I love about cycling early in the morning, it's almost, you can smell the freshness of the day. You know, hardly any cars on the road, certainly spring, summer and autumn. Early morning, you smell the freshness of the day, and it's absolutely incredible what it does to you, just to your body. And you don't have to be cycling fast, but you're just cycling, your mind, you're really kind of relaxing, and you smell the freshness of the day, slowing down to enjoy the day. So you enjoy somebody's company, you enjoy the hug, you just enjoy being with them. And one of the things I was going to say in terms of meeting somebody, I really don't like, if I'm meeting somebody socially for coffee, I don't like either watching them watch all the time or being on the phone. I don't like them being on the phone also, because you're not enjoying the moment, you're being distracted, and that's not really good for all of us. I think this whole thing about slowing down, I think, and I've made a note here, and I could be wrong, and I'm going to put it out there and somebody can come back to me. Some of life major and political chaos has come about through speed and not taking the time to consider unexpected consequences. So some of life's major and political crises have come about through speed and not taking the time to consider unexpected consequences. And we're living in a time somebody bangs out an email they want, and certainly some industries it's kind of like that, but bang out an email, they want a response in 2 hours time. It doesn't give you the time for something that's thought through and may have some positive benefits. Is this whole thing about slowing down really important. Slowing down, number 3, slowing down reveals intention. So slowing down reveals the intention of behavior. Now listen to this. The author, he suggests an exercise called slow my phone reach. And this is what he says. And I shared this today with somebody, and I'll let you know the response. He said, the next time your phone rings, deliberately slow your arm to reach the phone. Detect your underlying intention by asking, do I really need to answer the phone now? Why? You slow down the process before you just get onto the phone straight away and so forth. And ask you, so do I need to answer it? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? You slow the process down. And I mentioned to somebody today, and she said, you know, Delroy, funny you should say that. You know, she said yesterday, everybody knows that, well, most people know I had my dinner within a certain time, and I was a bit late yesterday, and I had the phone near my food, and it went off while I was eating my dinner, and I looked at it and I thought, do I need to answer it? No, I don't. And she didn't answer the phone, and I've just put a note how many times I know I've done it, but certainly doing it less so now. My phone's next to me, I'm eating something, and then the phone rings and you get onto it and you don't enjoy your food. You take you're eating, and you're taking in loads of air, perhaps ended up getting indigestion. So this whole thing. So quite often what I'm learning to do more now is have my phone on flight only. Mind you, that I've been putting on flight only recently, and lots of stuff is still coming through. So I'm not too sure. The phone's over 3 years old, so maybe it's time to get a new one. It's all mashed up and cracked up, so maybe I need to get a new one. As somebody said to me a few weeks ago, somebody was suffering with chronic depression. We met for coffee, and she said to me, Delroy, I find it really hard to take you seriously as a businessman with a cracked up phone like that. That told me. Anyway, let's not spend too much time on that one. But anyway, so this whole thing about going slow is much harder than speeding up. Slow down to savor the moment. That's really, really important. And slowing down reveals our intention. Sometimes I've done it myself. Something has happened and you've reacted to it, and then you've got yourself involved. You think, did I need to get involved in that? No, I didn't. That's why one of the things now I don't like when salesman tells you, you need to sign now. I'm here, you need to sign now. All this kind of tactics kind of put you under pressure. No, you need to take the time. And quite often, if you step back and take the time and think about it, you don't sign up for it anyway, because you can find other things. The other thing I would say as well about pausing. I spoke about this is not even on the script for this evening, but it's really important. This whole thing about impulse buying, because men do impulse buy as well as women. I think people just think it's a gender thing, but no, men do impulse buy. And one of the things that I've done for a long time, sometimes I see something I want, but I've been able to look at it and say, do you know what? I'm not going to buy it today. Let me come back tomorrow or 2 days' time to see if I really need it. And to be honest, 9.5 times out of 10, I've never really needed it. I would have bought it for that moment. It would have been fine for the moment, and then it would have just been taking up space in the house. So try it. A lot of times, the things that we say that we need, we don't really need it. Now, there are some things that that you really do need. It's important for the house and so forth. But oftentimes, I see something, and sometimes it's a food item, sometimes it's a snack or something else, and I look at it and say, no, let me just leave it for a moment, or come back the following day. If that urge is still there, I'll buy it, but if it's not, I didn't need to buy it. So you save yourself some money. Brilliant. So slowing down is hard, but essential. Absolutely essential. When you slow down, we train the important brain network, and it's called the inhibitory control, especially like inhibition, but inhibitory control. Essential if we want to make good and thoughtful decisions so we don't have a mess to clear up later. So this whole thing about slowing down, part of the brain, we're training the brain, the inhibitory control, essentially if we want to make good and thoughtful decisions, we do just that, so we don't have to clear up a mess later on. There's something about slowing down, giving ourselves some thoughts and ideas, better options, as Roy Pontin says, that pause is waiting. It's a portal, and as we look into this portal, we slow down, we become aware of other options and choices that we can make, that had we been rushing into it, we wouldn't have been able to see them at all. Now, making quick and rash decisions are not the best for us under normal circumstances. How many times have we made quick and rash decisions only to live and regret it? So this whole thing about pausing, taking time, having a breath, holding the reins, slowing down a bit, incredibly important for our well-being, our body, averting danger, averting difficulties, certainly averting mental ill health. Absolutely important. One of the things I might just want to finish off, I just bumped, in fact, no, there's something I was going to talk about, but I just saw something this evening as I was waiting to get online. There was a couple. Let's see if I can get their names. They've been married for 35 years. John and Julie Gottman. Been married for 35 years. And they do couples work. They're both psychologists, and they've studied more than 40,000 couples about love. And this is the topic. This is the article. Really, really good. It said they've been married for 35 years. Here's the number one thing they never do to have a successful relationship. This is one thing they never do to have a successful relationship. And what it is they said, we never get into arguments when we are emotionally flooded. So things happen in relationships. Your partner is upset, you're upset, and then it gets really tense. There's lots of emotion. They said it's never a good time to be having arguments then. In fact, when I do my work as a counselor, quite often when people come in a crisis, their emotions are all over the place. And you can't get people to think if they're emotionally unstable. So part of the work is to get people to settle. And sometimes that can take weeks or even months. And then when that happens, they can begin to think clearly. So they said that they don't argue when they're emotionally flooded. So psychologically and emotionally really kind of gone through the roof. So what they do, in a sense, they take time out. They go into another room, find something that distracts them, and then at some point they come back when they're emotionally stable. Now, how many of us, not even in kind of a marriage relationship or long-term partnership, how many of us, had we done that, could have averted some of the difficult situations we're in, some of the conflicts at work, when we are emotionally flooded? What we need to do at those points is pause. Really difficult to do, because if somebody's throwing insults at you, you want to throw insults back, but somebody has to say, and I have taught, good evening, Paulette, really good to see you this evening. And I have shared over the years with clients, I said, listen, when you get emotionally charged, somebody has to step back. Or I think you may have heard me say it before, if it's in a meeting at work and you're getting quite angry, the person's angry, you might need to say, you know, I can't respond at this moment. Can you give me some time to respond later once I've calmed down? Because we don't see the world clearly when we're really emotionally charged up or really, really angry. So this whole thing about pausing, good to see you this evening, Norma. Really good to see you this evening. Looking at pausing, you can always look back and you can always rewind, look back at this. So pausing, really, really important. The whole thing about pausing, if we want good mental health, we need to pause. Some people would say take some extended time out for meditation, for stillness, for solitude. Absolutely important. 3 things about slowing down. Slowing down is much harder than speeding up. You slow down to savor the moment. So sometimes, say like now, where the weather is getting better, and if you don't live too far from work and you live a mile or so, you just walk in and just enjoy the sounds, the sights, the smells of just walking into work, and some of the things you can see. Yeah, good evening, Jeff, and anyone else who's come a little bit. Well, I won't say late because there's no kind of deadline on this, but if you're just logging in now, really good to see you this evening. Hope you found this information really important this evening. So slowing down is much harder than speeding up. Slow down to savor more, really enjoy life, enjoy the hug, enjoy time with somebody, just enjoy the moment, just in the moment, really important. And slowing down reveals intention. For those who may have missed it, when your phone goes off, if you're eating something, you look at it, do you really need to answer it? If you're doing something, you can not answer it, just leave it. If it's important, I've always said, if it's important, the person will ring back, then you'll know that you need to answer it. And this whole thing around slowing down, so when we slow down, we're training the brain. And certainly in this time of this kind of frenetic pace we're living in, we're not designed to be going full pelt all the time. So it could be, in terms of pausing, you wake up in the morning, before you rush out of your bed, you pause, and then before you leave the house, you spend a few minutes. There may be during the day when you're having lunchtime, that you may have your lunch at your desk. I wouldn't certainly encourage that, but then you go for a walk, to pause, to get away from the atmosphere home, and then the whole thing around pausing before you go to bed, to slow everything down, get yourself ready to sleep for the evening. So listen, wish you well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. If there's this is more kind of one way. I think next week I'll be looking at some of the things we can do. I mentioned some stuff already, but this whole thing around pausing, try to build it into your life. I'd really encourage you, try to build pause into your life. And I can't tell you to pause for 30 minutes if you've not done it before, but maybe just for 2 or 3 minutes. And then maybe just for 3 minutes, and maybe next week I can share some of the ways in which we can pause, just to step back a bit. There's a friend of mine. She's pausing by she'll be cycling quite a few days, but it's just taking some time away from the hustle and the pressures of the work, and just cycling with a group of friends in different parts of the country for about 4 or 5 days. So pausing can take kind of different ways, but we need that time to relax and to recover. So enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. If you find this helpful, let folks know. Please share it with individuals, share it amongst your networks. There must be people you're working with who are absolutely stressed out and just need some information about pausing. And if they pause, they're doing their bodies a favor and their minds a favor. So wish you well. Take care. All the best. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.